Happy Monday, everyone. Another big week in the world of golf. We are here live every Monday, 6 p.m. at Precision Golf. As usual, I'm joined by Simon, the master fitter here at Precision Golf. What a weekend of golf. Nelly Korda wins her 6th title in 7 starts. I think that absolutely trumps the PGA Championship and Xander Schauffele taking his first win as a major champion. Really trumps it because to string 2 wins back to back is one thing, but to get 6 in 7 starts is unbelievable. Arguably playing the best golf of anyone on the planet right now.
You look back and the only people I can think of who you would even put in the same category would be, on the ladies' tour, maybe Annika and Curry Webber at best. Tiger, 100%. I mean, Scheffler's done a lot. Was it 4 out of 5? But 6 out of 7 is. I don't think I can remember seeing anyone do that other than maybe Tiger.
No. Nelly had a bit of a hiccup start of the early part of her round. It was interesting to see whether she'd go on and get over the line. Whenever you're on a great run and you have a bit of a hiccup, the depth of confidence is always far, far greater than anyone else in the field. And it was great to see her kick back on and go and take the title. What do you think this means for her going forwards for the rest of the season?
I mean, it's almost it comes a point where you kind of go, well, it's got to end at some point, and you kind of wonder whether, I mean, her confidence must be up there somewhere. You've got to think, well, I remember someone talking about Colin when he was going through a streak of winning Order of Merits, and he used to stand at the back of the range and going, well, basically, if I'm half decent, I'll win. And she must just think, well, not I've got to show up and win, but put half a game together, I'm going to be up there. But you wonder whether, I doubt it for her kind of level. I know for me, I'd be like, well, this is going to come to an end at some point. But it could quite feasibly just go on and on and on. If she can keep the pedal down, it's hard to see it stopping.
Like Annika, well, many would see Annika's swing as slightly unorthodox because of that head turn through, but actually very connected, very arms and trunk orientated. Very much the same mould with Nelly's swing, a very body orientated swing, very connected. Not the longest of hitters, but certainly gets it out there, being the top 3rd on the LPGA. I think when you've got a golf swing that's backing up that sort of performance, you'd arguably say when you think of a Scotty Scheffler and what he's doing in the game, you kind of, and a bit like Jordan Spieth when he had his run, Jordan's was very much about the putter. Scotty's is very much about his long game. You almost get a feeling it's going to come to an end sometime. But with Nelly, how well she's playing, putting, relentless, you go, oh, this could be around for a bit Tiger-esque.
Yeah, it is all around. I mean, you look at it and go, well, where's the weakness? Where's the point we can go, well, once that goes, there isn't the other bit to salvage it. And so with Jordan, it was, if his long game was on, he's going to hold a load of putts. And with Scotty, if his putting's on, well, the long game's that good. But, we saw, the fallibility of an over-par round for Scotty this week, among a few other things. But, I just don't see a weakness, other than she has a slightly off week. And, someone like Charlie has a stormer, well, but I think it's got to be that way around now.
We're going to come on to talking about the PGA Championship in a short while. As usual, we've got the iPads in tow, both my channel and the Precision Golf channel. If you can, stick your club questions up on the Precision Golf channel. We'll answer those there. And any golf swing questions, keep them over on the Good Golf Coaching channel. That would be great. We've got young Barney in the background here just below us. We'll maybe get him on for a little lick and cuddle a little bit later on. But let's talk about the PGA Championship. It was a topsy-turvy event for many reasons. I mean, obviously, tragedy, someone losing their life at a tournament. I mean, crikey, it's unthinkable what the family are going through. And then on the back of that, to sort of steal the highlights of that or the headlines of that, Scotty Scheffler making a wrong turn at some point and getting himself into a bit of a pickle. How did that make you feel when you were reading the headlines? We were out in Greece at the time and it was coming through.
It was almost a bit of disbelief, really. But, I guess, rules is rules. But to I think there was a little bit of a statement made by the local police. If it wasn't a well-known golfer, would they have put him in handcuffs and carted him off to the police station? Quite possibly they might. It kind of felt like that was being pushed out there a bit. Will he make the tee time? Will he not? And I think he was always going to make the tee time, but it gave him a bit of bit of a spice, bit of excitement, and then he went on to shoot 4 or 5 under that day. So I think it's a kind of pity that stole a bit of the limelight. Yeah. And actually, the real story was sadly someone lost their life. There's ultimately the golf tournament going on next door. It kind of pales into insignificance, really, doesn't it? But yeah, I think I felt a bit for Scotty in that, because I felt like he was just going to be, they were going to do him badly no matter what happened. But yeah, fair play to him.
Jailbreak technology, by all accounts. James had the inside scoop on that. Well, we've got a lot of questions coming in already on both channels, which is great to see. Do give us a shout out if you are joining us for the first time. Matt Batchelor, sorry gents, can't tune in live today. Just a quick one. Do adjustable sleeves like SureFit have an impact on the shaft pure analysis fit? Looking forward to picking up my new clubs on Friday.
So for everyone other than Callaway, yes, they do. So Callaway have a kind of a couple of cogs that turn independently of the actual sleeve itself. Something like the Titleist SureFit, if the number stays in the same position, the shaft stays in the same alignment, the grip stays aligned, the puring stays aligned, and you can change the letter around. But if the number changes, then you're going to move it 90, 180 degrees. With TaylorMade, with Ping, with Strixon, with basically any other system, when you move it, the whole thing turns. So what we then have to do, if you do change your setting, basically drop it back in, we'll then reset the shaft into that position, so it keeps its period orientation, keeps the grip alignment as well.
Just going back to the PGA Championship, there was something about the PGA Championship that, I don't know whether it was Valhalla and the pure expanse of the golf course, it really felt like it was a watered down atmosphere gallery.
They had record crowds apparently.
Did they really?
Full ticket sales.
Is that right?
Yeah, I heard them say that. Yeah, I know what you mean. Maybe they were just so far back from the play.
Very much so. Well, that answered that question, but it felt like that par 5 where they drove out to the left on that island fairway on the back 9, when you were looking at the galleries and then the par 4 after it, it felt like they were all a bit dispersed, and even on 18 it didn't really feel like there was the bumper crowd that we're used to seeing at a major championship.
I agree. Yeah, I wonder whether because of some of the layout of the course and where it went sort of out and back on itself potentially a little bit, it did feel like they were a long way away. I think that was probably the issue. I'm certain, so you questioned it a bit about now, I'm certain they said they had record sales or full sellout. Yeah. So I think just the nature of the layout, and whether maybe when they've redone some of the turf and done some of the grasses, whether that's made them push them a little bit further out, I'm not sure, because I remember it feeling like they were closer in previous tournaments.
And let's talk about the Irish contingent, because they were heading into the event, one on form, one that had lost a bit of form on the back of the Zurich Classic win. Obviously Shane Lowry, Rory McIlroy won at the Zurich, then they went to Quail Hollow. Rory went on to win there. Shane had an absolute stinker. Rory once again, final round, making putts, a bit of a calamity on a wedge shot, going into one of the par 4s and hits it in the soup. But again, on a Sunday, starts finding fairways, starts hitting good putts, aggressive putts. What do we think? What do we think of Rory's chances of getting over this line of major championships this year? Do we think we can either win the US Open, which is up next, or the Open Championship?
So it's Pinehurst and then Troon, venue-wise. Pinehurst, I think, is a tough one for him to win. I think it doesn't necessarily suit a long bomber. You look at the last couple of winners, or last few winners there. You've had, Michael Campbell. You've had Keimer. They're not the big bombers. It's a position, and the way the greens all run off, he doesn't get away with his wedges being as off.
No.
And I think to stick two in the soup on the back 9 yesterday on short shots into par 4s. His putting, he had a period in the back 9 on Saturday where he didn't hole some, and he said, I might come to not regret, but rue those missed putts that round. I think he did, because he wasn't as close. He had to force it a bit, and the way that all the leaders started off, they just moved off. So yeah, I just think he used up the previous week a week too soon. I think ultimately, his game's there or thereabouts. I think we're getting close to seeing Rory win a major again.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to maybe believe it a bit more now. And you said putting was more aggressive. They weren't kind of the lame weak ones coming out short.
But he was out. But he was out of contention. He was out of contention on Sunday, and that's where my question marks go.
Classic Rory.
Classic Rory, and I think it's great to see. I really enjoyed seeing Shane Lowry. I think if there is one golfer out there that golfers should take a leaf out of a player's book, and it's Shane's, because he plays always with a lot of smile and a lot of fun in his heart when he plays, with so much freedom. He hasn't got necessarily a textbook long game, but when he comes to getting a wedge in his hand and a putter in his hand, again, very much a free-flowing action, no real sense of technique going on. And I think that's really good for youngsters to watch, and great to watch as a viewer too.
It's fascinating watching him and Thigala in the same group, where they're both, I wouldn't say unorthodox, but Thigala just sees a shot, plays a shot, and Shane's the same. And seeing them hitting, there are a few of them actually hitting lower drives, hitting kind of 20-yard high drives, where they're normally 35, 40-yard high. Just seeing them play shots rather than just put a swing on. I think that was fascinating watching it. And the amount of drives, I think, through the whole of the top batch of players, that where they got that little target symbol that were just ripped at it. I thought it was really impressive to watch. The ball striking of Lowry this weekend was phenomenal. Top dollar, really impressive.
Okay, so let's get on to these questions. Papa B, nice to see you in. Hello, young men. Love that, young men. Are you talking obviously about both of us or just me? If you could let us know. Been speed training and went from 106 to 113. Great work with the driver. Can you please explain how to know when it's time to change shaft flex or weight based on speed?
So flex-wise, don't worry too much about the flex. You would have to go a very, very long way on speed to change the flex. If you're changing the way you develop your speed, i.e. a complete change, shift in technique, then that's more likely to affect shaft type. If you're just gaining speed, then as long as you've got a consistent strike and a consistent control on the shot pattern, there's not necessarily need to change the setup. So it's only really if you start to feel like you're putting a good move on, and if you're working with a coach and your technique and your swing lines stay in place, then actually, as you potentially generate more speed and acceleration and the club falls out of sync with you as you're creating more snap, that's then when you need to look at the weight and the balance of the setup rather than necessarily flex. But the dispersion's the thing to really look at for that.
Barney's having a little go at the driver there, wants to get on and hit one for Kevin, who's asked, hi Stuart and Simon, can you hit the QI 10 max to show what difference in the numbers would be when adjusting the sleeve to the standard high and low settings? You're the man for the job. Simon loves to hit. And on that note, hitting shots, we had an event last week at the wonderful Costa Navarino Resort. There were 3 teams. One was headed up by Lewis Sparrow, our other golf coach here at Precision Golf, and Roger Chapman brought a team out, and of course myself. Well, the victors of the week were me, my team, Team Woods. How did your team do, Simon?
Well, we came third.
So last.
By a point.
Last.
Yeah, by a point.
So last.
Very
anyway,
good competitive set of taunts, and I feel good for you having lost last year, come last to win this year.
Yeah, as I say, you're only as good as your last round. Only as good as your last round. So my team won. We're
not competitive.
We are running it again next year. We have 5 teams, 2 captains to be disclosed, and they are potentially mammoth captains that you will know. The dates of it are the 6th to the 10th of May. Go out on the Tuesday, come back on the Saturday. 3 rounds of golf. Do drop us a line, stuart@precisiongolf.co.uk, and we will get you hooked up with a team, winning one if you like. or a losing team. Depends where you
And
go.
you know we're not going to hear the end of this all year.
Oh yeah, this is coming out on every show.
We didn't let him forget it last year. So.
That might need a little bit of tightening up. It's probably all the partying on the last night that we went on. Anyway, well, let's get you hitting that. I don't want to gloat too much about my win. I don't want to get too much leverage on that.
So you're going to start with it in standard position. So this is the QI10 Max. I've gone 9 degrees, that's the most relevant loft for me. So I'll get solid hit in each position, so it's neutral, high and low. I think was the request, wasn't it? So very stable head, hence the max element to it. So fairly kind of mid spin for this one. It's not the lowest spin head of them, it's the highest spin because of that weight being so far back. It's going to give you a little bit more backspin, but that helps just retain a little bit more straightness. So I'll do one more there. Okay, so neutral position, that was a bit of a better flight. So both of those swings are 2,500 revs on spin. That was a better contact, so 14 launch. I'm going to turn it up. Was it fully up or was it just one? I think just to show the kind of the maximum.
High and low setting. Standard, high, low.
So we'll move it up to high, which in principles, they state 2 degrees adjustment. So it's kind of there or thereabouts, 2 degrees. So what this will also do, it also makes it sit a little bit closed, a little bit toed in, but adds the loft. So, oh, a little bit of a drop kick.
Drop kick. Good out of that lie.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a little high launch. That'll affect the spin. Let me do one more.
He did only hit 40 or 50 balls tonight. Normally he's 6
to get the back moving.
600 or 700. That was nice.
So what this goes to, because the face is closed more, it's actually turned the loft back down and actually turned the spin down because I've got it drawing over a little bit more. So whilst, yes, it increases launch, for me where the toe comes in, it creates the draw and turns the spin down a bit more. So it doesn't necessarily just affect the launch and the spin. If I were to get the face square and open it up, you're going to see the launch go up a couple of degrees, so more like 16, but the spin's going to go up. But where for me, where I'll address it where it is shut rather than squaring it off, effectively the drawbar kicks in and that's brought the flight back down. But if I squared it off, it would go noticeably higher.
Glenn 400, which way you're doing that? Glenn 400 asks, quick question guys, what's the best advice for trying to stop balls on firm greens? If the greens are firm, accept it and pitch the ball on the front of the green. Yeah. That's just the way they play it. I mean, if you play an Open Championship and the greens are firm, you don't see the guys changing their swing, changing their ball, changing their land angle. They just adapt to it. And unfortunately, if the greens are firm, just adapt.
Yeah, I mean, quality of strike's the surefire way to get the most spin you can. But so you could change golf ball, but then you're going to affect things like chipping and putting and things as well. So yeah, and if they're that firm, then it's not going to go from running through the back to stopping dead. It's just going to go from running through the back to stopping on the back edge. So yeah, you probably create more issues than you solve by trying to change too much. So this one's in the low loft setting, so I can see this sat down and open a little bit more. Come out of it a little bit. We should see, yeah. So, so squared off, and now the spin's down just under 2,000, launch down at 14, but the face is 5 degrees less closed than it was in its highest loft setting. So whilst it's a similar flight, if you change that face angle back to neutral in the higher loft setting, you're going to see it launching at 16 degrees and go 2.6, 2.7 on spin. So you're looking generally at about 600 revs of spin difference and about 2 or 3 degrees launch angle difference. Yeah, so both of those, more neutral face, down and forwards, but the high loft setting has closed the face in a lot, which is why we didn't see as much of a change in spin as the loft would suggest.
Okay, we've got lots of questions coming in. We need to pick the speed up here. AQ says, Shane Lowry, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Yeah. Great player, love him. Such a great guy as well. I love Turtle 315. Lovely to have you back in the house. I love Turtle. Evening, Eric and Ernie. Thoughts on driving iron shaft profile?
So some players will take, so I use the same shaft as in the main body of my irons. If I go lighter or a different shaft, then I lose the timing. But for another kind of 60% of players, a little bit lighter, because it's a little bit more of a rotation, a bigger swing than your irons, just helps the club clear through. So it's more about whether the same shaft as your irons or a lighter one works best, and then just a case of how much. So that sounds like a really non-committal answer, but it really does vary player to player as to what suits best.
Mistral 1811. Hi guys, with Bryson finishing second, any comments around the LA golf shafts?
They work well for him. They're quite particular in their setup. They tend to be a little more counterbalanced. Ultimately they're a well-made shaft, but there aren't that many options. They've got a few different weight varieties with their irons, but particularly in the irons, that is. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see what they do as a company. They don't seem to have a particular direction with where they're going, as far as I can see at the moment.
Very good. I was going to answer a quick couple of questions over on the coaching channel. James Kavanagh, evening lads, have played a draw for several years. Went a couple of weeks ago and out of nowhere I have a leaky fade on all clubs. Need a good feel to help me remember how to close the face. If you've had a little bit of time off, I would always go back to checking fundamentals. Check your grip, check your ball position, check your alignment. If you have been a drawer of the golf ball, if you were to shut yourself down a little bit too much, it's very easy to end up coming over it, hitting down on it a touch too much and having a touch too much fade going on there because your angle of attack has increased because the alignment is poor. If your ball position is a bit too far back, you can meet it a little bit too early in the arc and you can blast out to the right. And if your grip slipped, equally the face can be a little bit weaker. So I'd go checking fundamentals before you start changing feels. So if you can, grab a video of one of your old swings and take a little video of one of your current swings and compare the two. That would be the best course of action first. Interesting question from Jeff Berger. You promote laying the club down and opening the club face in transition. A lot of people perceive that laying the golf club down in transition is an opening of the face. It's absolutely not an opening of the face. He goes on to say, however, you also mention an open club face is the root of early extension. Seems like a contradiction. Please educate. I shall do exactly that. So when we talk about laying the club shaft down, I always talk about it because it's a swinging mass. So when you're taking a golf club away, I always want to see the golf club head weight trying to fall backwards. Now, as the club head falls backwards, that face orientation has stayed exactly the same. If I get that club head to fall backwards and then I open the face, now I've got the club shaft laying down and the face opening up, which is very different to a club face laying down and not opening up. So at that point, with the club shaft now laid down, as I start to pull the golf club into strike, I now have a much better chance of swinging that golf club on the angle that I preset it at address. When a club shaft gets pulled down too steep, whether you believe it to be over the top or pulling it down too soon, whatever you see it as, if the shaft gets too stood up at this point, if you were to continue on that track, that head would swing over the top of you and make it go to the left. So by having the shaft pitch fall back in transition gives you the opportunity to now swing the golf club around you on the right pitch, which just helps you square the face up. So laying the club shaft down does not open the face, but what it does do, it makes you feel like the face looks more away from the ball to target line. If the shaft is standing up, can you see how the face looks more at the ball to target line? So just because I'm laying the shaft down, it does not mean I'm opening it up. This would be opening it up, not the laying down of the shaft. And hopefully that's given you some clear identities of what an opening face is and what a laying down shaft is. All good. And I think just one more, Norwegian Warhound. Stu, would you be your top tip for playing in windy conditions? Spring in Iowa is pretty breezy. Hope you're both well. I would always take one extra club and grip down 2 fingers.
Well, one if you're James at the moment.
Yeah. So take your 2 fingers.
Two. Yeah.
Take 2 fingers and then grip down it. And then make your usual swing. So now you've got more loft, smaller swing because the travel of the club is less because of the 2 fingers. You'll have a slightly less spin rate, but it won't go quite as far as it would do had it be a full shot. And that should balance the 2 out. That would be my top tip for playing in the wind. 2 fingers down, take extra club.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Strike's king.
Yeah.
I think, as you say, don't try and hit it hard. That just puts spin on. But quality of strike is the most important thing because that's going to ensure the ball's as stable as possible in flight.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. We'll come back to the coaching channel in a second as we've got more questions on here. Lee Roberts, hey guys, is the Ping Blueprint S the new i59? And is the i59 still in the lineup? Thanks, Lee.
So i59 is now, there may be a few heads left, but it's basically phased out, which is no bad thing because it really underperformed as a head. I don't think I think that was one of the weakest heads they've done for a while. And so Blueprint S has essentially taken over from that, yes. Much softer feeling, just a little bit more spin, but yeah, the i59 was a bit of a damp squib. Sadly.
Was it? Was it?
Just didn't do anything.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Lee Roberts asks, Stuart, how do you find the whoop strap? I've had it just over a month now, really enjoying it. Gives me good insight into strain, how hard I'm working in the gym. I'm really giving it 10-0 in the gym at the moment, so it's been a useful bit of kit for me, knowing how far to push it, sleep cycle and all that kind of stuff. So at the moment, this is the 4.0 edition, so I really like it. I can recommend it enough. That's not a paid ad, by the way. Samir Tuti, hey Stuart and Simon, how should one think about shaft length, especially on woods and hybrids? Sorry if I haven't pronounced your surname right.
I think with driver in particular, if you're struggling to square the face up or struggling to get consistency of strike, then a shorter shaft's often a good way to go, particularly if you're tending to leave the face open and really struggle to get that club face squared up through the shot and leak it right. I'd always look at shaft length, but quality of contact. You rarely need to go longer on woods because they're already the longest clubs in the bag. So if you're tall, you don't necessarily have to go longer. But if you are a little bit on the shorter side, then there's no harm in taking a little bit of length off as long as you look at, make sure the club head weight doesn't get too light with that. So concentrate on swing weight, but yeah, shorter shaft will generally help ball strike.
Very good. Paul Dunn asks, do you guys agree with me that all golf manufacturers should be made to use the same adjustable adapters on shafts? Easier to swap shafts across brands for us all.
It would make life easier, but we all know that's not going to happen. It's a bit like mobile phone chargers or cell phone chargers, depending where you are. They're never going to align completely across the industry. There are some universal ones, but sadly, I don't think it'll happen for a while.
Yeah, too much in it for them not to do it. Minsock Park, good evening, gents. Nice to have you along. Hope you had a fantastic time in Greece. We certainly did, my friend. In your experience, how long does it usually take to adjust to new clubs, especially if fitted into lighter shafts and new head style?
I mean, it should be, realistically, where you're going a little bit lighter, it's easier to time, so you're not having to work as hard. So it should just be a few rounds to start to get a real feel for you know, how your timing changes and just get a bit more control. So yeah, normally within a few rounds you'll start to dial them in, and then it's just getting used to different yardages. It's when you're playing feel shots, those are the ones that take a little bit longer to bed in, but your kind of standard stock swings should tidy up pretty quickly. Essentially it's getting out of old compensations more than anything else.
I missed out Golf Nerds question. Hi Simon, have you fitted anyone into T150 bent weak to more traditional lofts for more spin? Will it launch too high?
So you wouldn't, if you're wanting more spin, you wouldn't be using the T150s, you go straight to the T100s, and that's why they have the differentiation heads. We have done some T150s weakened off a little bit, but you're not going to get more than a degree and a half of loft change out of them. So it's where you're going to need the higher loft and the lower spin. You normally need the higher loft and the higher spin, but the extra ball speed of the 150s can be a plus. But yeah, so we have weakened them off a little bit, but generally not to try and gain. It's more to gain launch rather than spin.
AQ laughs at our 45 viewers, 49 now actually. Horse racing legends. Hope you both enjoyed the USPGA. We certainly did. I got fitted for a Velocore TR Blue 6X. Struggled a bit with it, and I've tried the red TR 6X, tipped half an inch, and it seems like I can handle it better. Driver is a speed 109.
So, I mean, it's not necessarily about speed. I mean, the TR, by tipping the TR red, well, you are softening actually. That's not the worst thing in the world. So that might make it feel a little bit easier. Certainly from a structural point of view, the red's not quite as harsh. So, but weights are very, very similar. So it's probably more the fact that you feel like you can get more out of the shaft rather than the shaft being unusable, because the weight's really very similar. Balance point's really very similar. So just a slightly more responsive feel can definitely make quite a difference from a confidence point of view.
Very good, very good. Radhika, nice to see you, Radhika. Hi, Stuart, winning captain in brackets. I just want to say, Simon, you have a lot of resilience having a smile on your face after last week's comp. Newfound respect for you.
Can't win them all. So,
no,
you know, next time. Next time I'll have game face on next year. Not that I didn't this year, we just didn't play very well.
Shane Delmo, hi gents, good evening Shane. I'm playing a QI10 max 9 degree driver turned down to 7 degrees to open the face. I'm playing with stock Ventus TR Blue Black 5R shaft, swing weight D5. Didn't see a question in there, Shane. Oh, I like the weight of the shaft and the launch. The launch is okay, but I'm striking the ball high and off the toe a lot. I've never had this problem before. I'm not sure if it's the shaft or the user. From the little information you have, would any of the following shafts be an option for me? Diamana TB, I can hear a definitely maybe coming up here. Diamana TB, 5SR Ventus, red 5R Motore, XF3 5R Speeder, NX Blue 5SR. Or could you recommend a shaft that could be an option for me?
You could take any of the shafts, if the weight's correct for you, you can take pretty much any of the shafts on the wall or that are out there, and they might be an option for you. Ultimately, your strike point, if it's high and out the toe, there's a strong chance that with a D5 swing weight, that could be dropping behind you, getting underneath and catching it high on the toe. So I'd say it's probably more to do with the fact that the max head weight is a little on the heavier side, because to get as much weight as possible at the back, they've made the head weight slightly heavier to get that 10K forgiveness. So, so that's been the biggest issue we've found with those heads, is the base head weights on the heavy side makes them a little unwieldy. That could be more of an issue than the shaft. But shaft-wise, I'm really sorry, I haven't got a clue what's going to work better for you, I'm afraid.
Mark Griffin, pretty sure I need more weight in my shaft. Would it be a good idea to add a strip of lead tape down the shaft to test this, and where should it be placed, mid, top or bottom?
Look, it is adding weight to the shaft, but I'd put it more through the middle. So if you're going to do it that way, I'm going to put it more through the middle section, because that way it's a more even distribution of weight rather than just loading up the grip end or the head end. That keeps it through as much of the length of the shaft as possible. So you're going to do it down the back and down the middle section.
Evening gents, Tom Ashmore, nice to have you with us, Tom. Question for you both: if you were playing golf for a living, would you make any changes to the current clubs you are using? Good question.
So I do have a 5-wood in the cupboard that if I was playing golf for a living, I'd be playing longer, bigger, harder courses, and I'd need the extra height going to par 5s. So I'll be using that as more of an approach shot club rather than my 2-iron, which is a teeing off club. So the 5-wood would probably be in the bag.
Yeah, I'm very happy with all my clubs. I was fitted only a short while ago, and there's not one there that I don't like. So I'm very happy with all of them.
My problem is the bit that's on the end.
Yeah,
holding it.
Me too. Me too. James Young, hi guys. Which drivers in recent years are particularly good with low ball strikers? I tend to play a 12-degree lofted driver. Thanks as always.
So in terms of, I'm assuming low on the face, strike-wise.
I was saying low as in low flighted.
So if it's low flight, then the Callaway's always been brilliant for getting extra launch angle relative to loft. That's where they've always stood out really, really well. Keeping launch up without the spin flaring up too much. So if it's low flight, then the Callaway's. If it's low on the face, I would say actually Titleist have been very good for low on the face, particularly this last model. But if it's height, getting extra peak height on the flight, Callaway's.
Yep. Good luck with getting it up. Horse racing legends. I'm not sure about the whoop. I'm an ex-semi-professional cyclist, and the numbers were playing with my head. Fatigue numbers, but feeling good. Good stuff. Well, each to their own with the interpretation, but I'm enjoying it so far. So I'll see how it fares as the weeks and months go on. Albert Royan, I shortened my driver shaft, Carly White Stiff 65 grams with 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches swing weight from D5 to C6. How many grams do I need to use for a good swing weight to get to D5 again?
So I wouldn't go to D5 at that length. So let me start that one again. If it swung well balance-wise at the longer length than a D5 swing weight, and you take 1.5 inches off, you don't get it all the way back to D5. So C6, get it to about D0, D1. So that's going to be 2 grams for every swing weight point. So if it's C6, get 10 grams back on it. And that's roughly the difference in weight between a driver head and a 3-wood head, and you're now taking a driver to pretty close to a 3-wood length. So I would say put 10 grams back on, and that should be close, but it will require a little bit of trial and error just to dial that in.
Very good. Eric Wallace, Ping G430 LST versus QI10 Tour 3-woods. Who wins in distance and dispersion? Thanks, guys.
Dispersion, I'm going to say the Ping. Just where they've always been good, a little bit better across the face. It is a little bit more forgiving. In terms of distance, I'd probably just give it the QI10 Tour. I think that's just a little bit stronger on spin. And when you get it, that's going to get a little bit more heat, but fairly marginal. I think the main thing is the QI10 is going to launch lower. The Ping LS will kick it up in the air a little bit more.
Let's see if we've got a little question on the coaching channel. Dave Hammond, is there a simple reason why I tend to take too much of a divot? There's a few reasons why you could take too much of a divot. Your ball might be too far back. Your club face might be too far open. And another reason why your legs are giving way through strike. Those are the 3 probably most common feelings.
The last one's a scary one, isn't it?
Yeah. Those are the 3 reasons why you might take too much divot. The last one is normally based around the fact that when you're giving your knees are giving way, that's you giving yourself some time to get the face square. But usually, club face open, ball too far back are 2 of the most common reasons why people take too much of a divot. Mark Rowley, hello fellas. One for Simon. If I add lead tape to the back of my driver, will it increase forgiveness, i.e. a homemade 10K demonstration maybe?
Technically, and when I say technically, I mean really small technical amount, yes. But you've got to add a heck of a lot of weight to the back of that head to make it more. You think of a driver head weight on average is 190, 195 grams. If you're putting 3 grams on, technically you're dragging the centre of gravity back, but realistically you're doing knacker all. So you've got to start putting, where the brands have started to put 10, 15, 20, 25 grams more at the back of the heads now than they used to. That's when it starts to make a difference on CG, but they're also making the middle lighter in order to do it, so it's exaggerating that change. So the amount of lead tape that you'd have to put on to make it tangibly change the forgiveness would make the driver unswingable. So, yeah.
No.
No.
No is the answer, love it. Richard Skinner, club fitter changed my shaft to Ventus Black Velocore 6S, Paradigm Triple D, turned down to 9, weight forward, lowered spin to 2,200, distance increased 20 yards, unfortunately going right on the course. Any ideas?
Well, you could use the Paradigm triple diamond head with the weight forward, or it's a slightly fade mast head anyway. It sits a little bit flatter and it tends to sit a little open. If you've turned the loft down, if I remember that right, that's opened the face as well. What you can do is use the -1 on the D, the draw setting, just to square that back off a little bit. But in a Ventus Black, and which is a stable tip balanced, and a low launch, low spin, slightly open face driver head, unless you are someone who hits a strong draw, it's likely to fade a little bit, but use the draw setting on the sleeve, and that's your best bet.
Fabulous. Robbo Thomas, enjoying the live shows. Thank you, Robbo.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you with us. What are some signs to watch out for that shafts might be too heavy or light for a player?
Well, too heavy, they're just hard work. It's got to want to drop behind. And what you'll tend to see is, as you're talking to Roger about this last week, he had a set of clubs sent to him which were heavier shafts. And what happens is, as you start down, as you fire from the top, it's a bit like chaining the club to the wall. You go, the club doesn't come with you. So it tends to want to drop behind, and you're likely to get, okay, exaggeration, but a ground ball contact, or flip it over left. Too light, and then what happens is once the club goes above your hands, it's a bit like turning it around. There's nothing to sense. The club can kind of get away from you. So you actually can't use the weight to build speed. So if it gets too light, you're going to effectively kind of chase through, lose the club, and you're going to lose control of strike and lose control of the golf ball. You have to back off of it and end up being a little bit kind of steered to try to keep it on line. So either way, it doesn't let you naturally build speed through the swing, and you're having to adjust your timing to compensate for the club.
Imagine someone, if you're swinging a kettlebell in the gym and someone threw you a heavy one and then threw you a light one, what you'd have to do to sequence up the movement. It's exactly the same thing. We're swinging a weighted implement at the end of the day and try and coordinate it, and it's fine tolerances. Mark Griffin, sorry, follow up. When you said back of shaft for lead tape, you mean opposite side of target or underside of shaft at address?
Underside of shaft at address. So that's face on, putting it underside. Partly, one, you don't see it, but really just so down that centre section, middle section of the shaft on the underside, purely so it's out of sight.
Yeah, very good. Tom Ashmore asked, Richard Skinner, I changed my AI Smoke TD to the SD setting and made a massive difference to start line. I was struggling with it going right as well. So, you know, maybe have we got that club head that we could actually show the kind of settings that the guys can and girls can apply?
I'll just grab a shaft so I can show you the sleeve settings, because then I can move them around more easily.
Yeah. While you do that, Dean Barrett asks, hello chaps, recently put my driver to 11 degrees from 9 degrees as I find it easier to hit straight. How much ball speed will I have given up from that?
So going from 11 to 9 or 9 to 11?
Gone from 11 to 9.
If you've gone down in loft, you'll probably gain speed, because you should do, because the ball's coming out more forwards. You'll give up a little bit of ball speed by going higher in loft. Because the ball's going up rather than forwards. So you'll lose a couple of miles an hour, but then you'll add going higher and you'll add spin. So you could lose around 10 yards.
But again, depends on the efficiency of his golf swing. If you're outside of the window, either direction could make you more optimal, couldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. In principle,
or else it would be a blanket, less loft, more ball speed, high loft.
And we've seen that go wrong over the last few years. More players now are going in higher lofted clubs to gain flight and gain carry distance. We see it in long irons. It's why your 5-iron or 4-iron carries the same distance as the 5 or the 6-iron, because it doesn't get in the air enough to get the flight. But with driver, if you're too high, bringing the loft down will gain you ball speed. If you're too low, bringing the loft up won't gain any ball speed, but will gain you carry distance and therefore consistency of distance. So,
very much so.
So setting-wise with the Callaways, the key thing with the Callaways, and James will direct me to that, there's a little notch on there, that little white notch which goes down the back of the club head. Wherever that sits, whatever the letters above it are, that's what the setting it's in. So this is in the -1 in the draw, but you can go into neutral and standard. You can go into 1 degree more loft, draw setting. You can go into neutral +2. You've got all these various settings that you can put them into. So from a loft point of view, you've got the S for standard, and then -1, +1, +2. And then for the face angle setting, you've got N for neutral and then D for draw. So you can actually, there's a lot you can do, particularly with the Callaway ones where you're not going to be, the shaft isn't going to be twisting around, the hosel, the grip position is not going to be twisting around.
Is that mostly for just Callaways? Do any other brands?
This is only Callaway's one. Titleist have a letters and numbers system, the SureFit. Sure fit, yeah. Which is not necessarily the most intuitive, but have A, 1, 2, 3 and 4, B, 1, 2, 3 and 4, C, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and D, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So from a number setting, the 1 is the neutral and lower loft and flatter settings. The 2 is neutral and lower loft and draw settings, so upright. So it's a bit more complicated, and even now, even right and left-handed, I've got to look on their charts sometimes to work out what the heck's going on.
But with the Callaway, are they the only one where you can change the setting and the grip stays the same?
In all their settings, yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
So say Titleist, if the number stays the same, the
grip stays the
position, the sharp position stay the same. But with any of the others, when you change the setting, it ping TaylorMade, because it's a single sleeve. As you move it, everything twists around. So that's why the Callaway system for me is the most versatile and the best out there.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Samir says I pronounced his name perfectly. That's good to hear. Nobody likes to be mispronunciated. I love Turtle 315. Simon, is new DHY materially different to the previous version?
It's a neater, and by DHY it means the TaylorMade, the what are they calling it this time? I think it's just the P series DHY, the kind of driving iron hybrid, the bigger of the two. They've got the UDI, which is not particularly forgiving, and the DHY is the slightly bigger one. It's a slightly neater look. It looks a bit more like an iron. They've definitely brought it more into the iron visuals from a series point of view. Still very forgiving. Still launches a bit harder than the UDI and the respective irons that it would be replacing. But yeah, it's a much better looking head, much more iron-like than previous models. I'm trying to think if I missed a bit of the question there, or was it just a...
Yeah, no, materially different to previous version.
It's a much better looking club.
Have we got one?
Not yet. They're coming through. They should be here imminently. But we have ordered them. But I think materially different. They're less clunky feeling and looking, but performance will be similar.
Got it. Samir asks, I'm currently playing the G430 Max 10K driver head with a Ventus Blue 6X, but I have a problem squaring the face. Any ideas to what would make it easier for me equipment-wise to square the face? So
sometimes what we do see is that with the very forgiving heads, there's a lot of, I'm going to grab one to get it. Right.
Keep those questions coming in. We've got another 13 minutes. We're happy to hit anything you'd like us to. Simon does all the hitting. I do all of the heckling.
Yeah. So with the 10K like this, the weight's a long way back from the face. And so it's a very light center section here. So to get that forgiveness, they spread lots of weight away from the club face. What we have seen that do is when you transition, when you start down, that weight can gear it around and open it. So I certainly find with the bigger, more forgiving heads that actually it makes the face open on the way through, because I have a little bit of a rotation, kind of an under rotation, if that's the right terminology, on the way down, and then I've got to square it off again, which when I'm swinging really well I don't do, but most of the time I do. So, but I find that the heavy back-weighted heads like the 10K Max and like this, like the Max TaylorMade and this, fan the face open. So that might just be a function of the head that you're using. That's why I use the TSL3, because I can just square it up a little bit more easily.
Very good.
Or it could be swing weight. They are quite a heavy weighted head. So if you reduce the head weight by a few grams, drop the swing weight down a little bit, that may well help you square it up as well.
Goes on to say 105 to 110 miles an hour, clubhead speed, 2 degrees in to out, but 3 to 4 degrees open face on average.
It'll be swing weight or head style.
Yeah, very good. Van House, a message for Stuart. I'm struggling with coming from the inside a lot and laying the club down, so hitting up a lot on woods and driver with the shut face hooks or pushes. Any drills that might help me? Yes, I can help you with a little bit of that. Let's have a little bit of driver fun. What have we got here? Oh, this is a 9-degree horror. So hooks come from fundamentally a shut club face. You know, if you've got, and you're working with TrackMan and your TrackMan numbers are face to path negative of 3, 4 or more, you're going to have some sort of right to left draw. And the minute you feel that, you always are going to want to enter the golf ball from the inside, because obviously the more we feel like we approach the ball from the inside, the sensation is that we protect the left. The problem with that is that it invariably encourages a heel strike. So you go from hitting a bit of a hook, then all of a sudden you whack one and smoke it straight out the heel, and then you blast it right with slice. So the ones that go out to the right, that is more than likely just the gearing that you're hitting out the heel. The reality is you've got to do something with your club face relative to your club path. And the best way to go about doing that is, the first thing to do is put the ball a long way forwards in your stance. And the reason why you want to put the ball a long way forwards in your stance is because it's really going to help you square up your path line. So if you can imagine, let me switch those balls around. If you can imagine that the yellow ball is a straight club path, when you're trying to fix the hook, you're trying to approach your ball from inside. By placing the ball further forwards in your stance, you're going to very quickly start to meet the ball back on the way in, which will, if you're say 4 or 5 degrees from the inside, by placing the ball a couple of inches forwards, you'll immediately get rid of that. So move the ball further forwards to start with, and then what you've got to do is do something. So we fixed your face by putting the ball a long way further forwards. Now we've got to fix your face angle. There's 2 ways of doing that. One, fix your grip. Either make your right hand sit more into the fingers and get the palm of the hand more on top, or weaken off your left hand, put your thumb more down the middle. If you want to go down that route, that would be the simplest route. Or secondly, just add some loft on the way back. So what you want to do is, if you've got a strong grip, because that's invariably where the face will come from, being too strong is from the hold, as you swing the golf club back, you want to feel like the face is looking a bit more back at you. So the loft of the club's looking a bit more back at you. And then when you match up that face angle where it feels a bit more lofted to later in the arc, you'll then have your face and your path converging with a much lesser difference to the face looking left and your path looking right. And once you then start to see the ball bending a bit more to the right, just hit more balls. Hit more balls and gradually bring the golf ball back, gradually filter your grip back to being where it feels a bit more comfortable. And when you see a balanced flight, less hook, you'll then be able to sense where you need to be with both ball position and grip to get rid of that dirty inside out hook. But it's a face to path value at the end of the day issue, and there's many ways to fix that, but hopefully that's given you some help.
Yeah, you see, I often see it. The moment the ball starts to go left or right, then the path goes more the wrong way. Yeah, because it feels like the right thing to do to start it even further out, and then it just exacerbates it.
Yeah, and then you whack one out the heel, and it's like, well, I've got a 2-way miss now. Well, you haven't really. You've just pushed it so far right that's made the heel strike so bad. Van House, that was the question. Richard Skinner, Stuart, can you give us all a quick driver lesson? There's a lot to cover on a driver. Be more specific and I'll gladly do it. No problem at all. Golf Nerd 3, can you guys do a closest to the pin against each other with a little flop shot to a 15-yard target? We could do that.
Yeah, you ask, I'll set it up.
Yeah. Simon will do that.
Not asking much. God, that's a filthy shot. Especially
Jason, nice to see you, Jason. Hey, Stu and Simon, love the show. As you know, I'm a little random with strike, but improving. Will a custom fit make a viable difference given I'm playing with off-the-shelf and second-hand clubs?
It can always make a difference. I mean, ultimately, it can tell you whether you can make a difference with clubs or not. Is the variation in performance you or is it the clubs? You're going to assume it's you, but we might be able to find something really tangible. I had a lady in a fit this morning where she hated a driver. We went lighter in the shaft, and the first time she's ever hit it over 200 yards, she got it 206 yards. Her swing was really, really orthodox. She just thought she was not very good. But actually, by changing driver shaft, the head she had was great, made a really big difference to performance. So it's a lot of it's a human, but is the human reacting to something and having to compensate, and that just makes it really hard. So,
I mean, the perfect example, if I went out with, we have the nuts and bolts, same club head speed. if I went out with Simon's driver, I'd not be able to find the golf course. And I'm a good driver of the golf ball, not a cat in hell's chance. Because by the time I put my swing on it and see this thing fall out the sky with no flight on it, I'd be doing all sorts of things to try and make that work. And I just would be a terrible driver. So as far as I'm concerned, come down, have a fitting, and the guys will. I think if you're playing with second-hand clubs and off the shelf, I think there's some opportunity there for some good performance gains.
Yeah. You don't have to be scratch golfer. We've always said it. The more, in some respects, the earlier you are in your golf journey and the higher handicap, the bigger the difference you can make, because you can't adjust to the clubs the same way a pro or a low handicap golfer can. So you can't make them work. So the clubs have to work for you a little bit more. So you're often making a bigger proportionate change.
I missed one of S. Forbes' question. My apologies there. Question for Simon. Currently got a Callaway Rogue ST Max driver.
Yep.
Tested it on Foresight Hawk. On slight miss, hits my spin. I was creeping towards 4,000 RPM. Should I be making an appointment to see you?
If it's good on good hits and going to 4,000 on a miss, then yes, because it's about 3 generations before you start to see a tangible difference. But if it's low heel and you're, say, mid 2s on a good hit, it shouldn't be going as much as 4,000. Some of the heads now will definitely improve that.
If I ever miss a question,
should definitely improve that.
Do as S. Forbes just did, because it's not intentional. There's a lot of words. So we got a 15 yard. Whose idea was this? This was golf.
I know it's a bad idea. I've got a rotten short game.
This was, how long have you guys known? This was golf nerds question. He goes on to say, how long have you guys known each other? Is there an interesting first meeting story? I first met. I think I've. Did
You've
we
been
meet?
coaching at World of Golf in Malden. That was where we first. Certainly, I knew you. Or knew of you. That's
right.
because you were coaching there.
Okay.
And I used to use that range over the winter, so got to know who were the pros there.
Right.
I doubt you knew I was some spotty teenager.
That was a spotty golf coach.
But
Probably
through Mark. Would it have been through Mark?
No, it would have been through Nick.
Okay.
Because I bought Nick down here, didn't I? I knew James from another lifetime ago, but I think that's when you started fitting Nick Doherty, and that's when you guys approached me, and that's when so no.
35 years. There's no kind of romantic story.
No, that's right. Yeah, looking across the jaded room into each other's eyes. So we got 15 yards
on the nose.
15 yards. Height. It's got to be a lob shot, I believe.
It's got to be a flop shot, isn't it?
I think it's got to be a flop shot.
15 yards isn't
a lot to get your teeth into.
No.
You're welcome, S. Forbes.
Right.
Sorry for missing it. Oh,
Gone too short, have I?
Oh, that was delicious. That was delicious. Do you want to see if you can better it?
See.
Have 3 goes each. How close is that?
There is one. If you click on the tiles, there should be proximity to the hole. It's just very quickly, because that's the only bit anyone wants to know, especially us, so we can gloat at one another.
Yes.
From pin. There we go.
4 yards.
Which, considering this is
Yeah.
quite potentially the worst bit of my game, I'll take that. So right.
It's not.
Oh, I went up too high.
It's not.
Let me bring that back a little bit.
Unless you're in the US, this isn't particularly a shot that you. Oh, that was nice.
Too short.
That's short though. Oh, you're playing those beautifully. Playing those.
I wouldn't
beautifully.
fancy you off a tight fairway though.
Is this a 60? Is it?
This is a 60. Yeah. Oh.
That was a drop kick, wasn't it?
Stayed on the green.
That was a drop kick.
This is probably slightly heavier in the head than yours.
Yeah, it is a tad.
This is my club, so good. That should be good. Almost as high as Spieth at Whistling Straits. 5 yards.
5 yards, you win. Boo.
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 Boo. That's called my club and practice on a sim.
That's all good. Well, Is there any more questions? Come here. Gary Satterfield, I'm glad that you've turned up late, Gary, and my sister's not around. Hey guys, I have a serious question. If 2 beers on the front nine are definitely helping my game, but the 2 beers on the back nine not so much, should I just start drinking after the turn?
Well, I clearly have 1 on the front nine.
Yeah.
Just spread it a bit more, maybe?
Just spread the load.
Yeah.
Just spread the load. Come on, let's get.
Or maybe it's a
Barnabas
graduation.
here.
2 on the front nine, 1 on the back nine.
Barney, come here, come here. Good boy, good boy.
What have we got? There's a couple of extras. 1 extra coming. Stuart Brister, quick one. Say weights king over flex. How doesn't counterbalance shaft sit in that equation, or how does it sit in the equation? Exactly the same thing. The dead weight's still important, but the counterbalance will help you deliver the face square if somebody leaves it open. So the balance point helps the face closure, and the dead weight helps the synchronization of the base timing.
Very good. We're there. 7 p.m.
Aditya, we will do that question first next week. There's one about shaft lean.
Shaft lean. I'm all over a bit of shaft lean.
So we will answer that one first next week for you.
Yeah, or else Barney.
Next week is Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah,
we will answer that one first, the next live.
Absolutely. Well, enough. We're going to set Barney free. That's been another fun-packed show for us. If you are interested in the Costa Navarino trip next year, 6th to the 10th of May, it's going to be an absolute belter. Do drop us a line, Stuart at precisiongolf.co.uk. You must be playing golf this weekend coming up, aren't you?
No. Having
Have you used
a
your
week
quota?
away. Victoria and I, it's our anniversary in a couple of weeks' time, but we can't do our anniversary weekend because there's a family wedding, so we're a couple of days away.
Brilliant.
Nice dinner a couple of days away.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, listen, we've enjoyed all your questions as usual. Do join us in a couple of weeks. From Simon and I, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you soon.